Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, September 22nd, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Georgia U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock will be in studio tonight talking about issues in the United States Senate. Democrats, how they're going to move an agenda forward when you have Republicans who can't get their act together in the House. We also will talk about a 2024 election, what African Americans should be doing when it comes to supporting Biden and Harris. I look forward to that conversation with my alpha brother. Mississippi Supreme Court says the state Republicans' attempt to create 4 unelected special circuit court judges in Jackson, Mississippi, of course, more than 70% black, is unconstitutional. I'll be joined by the Impact Policy Counsel for the Mississippi Center for Justice to discuss this court victory. 9 Memphis deputies are indicted for the beating death of an inmate, and the 5 former Memphis police officers accused of beating Tyre Nichols to death have a federal trial date. A new report uncovers the connection between Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and a Koch brother, the Koch network. We'll talk about his connection and why Clarence Thomas is truly the most corrupt federal judge in America. Also, we had a great time at the Cincinnati Music Festival with Procter & Gamble. We'll show you some of that fun right here on the show. It is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, we continue to see craziness happen in the United States Congress. Right now, Republicans are truly losing their minds first over the Senate changing the dress code because of Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Okay, gotcha. Now you got the madness in the House where Republicans have literally left D.C. for the weekend, even though we've got a shutdown that is looming. These folks cannot get their act together. They literally are stuck on stupid. So you got Kevin McCarthy, that feckless Speaker of the House, who is being held hostage by his nutcase Freedom Caucus. When you've got Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene doing more talking than anybody else in Congress, you know you have truly lost your mind. The question is, when they come back, what are Democrats going to do? Republicans are demanding massive cuts to the federal government. But aren't these same people who voted for massive tax increases under Donald Trump, which of course added $8 trillion to the debt, representing 25% of existing debt? So what are they going to do? What should our reaction be? Are we going to remain silent and then watch the right lose their minds and then try to force President Joe Biden to accept their cuts? And let's be real clear, these folks will shut down the government. In fact, I'm going to play a clip a little bit later when Karl Rove talked about that, and he said, because this Fox News person said, well, why do Republicans always get blamed for shutting the government down? Karl Rove said, because they do. That's literally what they do. Y'all, they shut the government down when Trump was president. These people truly are nuts. My panel, Michael Imhotep, hosts the African History Network show out of Detroit, joins us. Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi, Texas. Killer Bethea, communication strategist out of D.C. I don't understand any of these nutcases.
Hold on, let me.
Michael, they really are crazy. And we don't have Michael yet. All right, so we lost Michael, so they've nobody able to get Michael back. I'll turn to Matt and Kelly. Kelly, I'll start with you. Here's my whole deal in this whole piece. This is where Democrats should literally say, you do you. Y'all let me know when y'all go through all y'all nonsense. I'll be here waiting. They should not commit to anything until the nuts in the House move forward.
And my thing is, they fought so hard to get the majority. They fought so hard to keep power, Republicans, and then to use it or frankly abuse it in this manner in a way that does nothing for the American people, doesn't even do anything for their caucus or their own agenda. It is like they just thrive on chaos. They thrive on the misinformation and the uncertainties because the only way they can galvanize their base is if something is wrong and they can blame somebody else for it. But yeah, it's ridiculous up here in D.C. right now between that and indictments and impeachments that don't need to be here. It's crazy, and it's like no one is paying attention to the American people regarding what they need, how they need it, and how soon they need it. Because these are jobs and lives that we're talking about.
Matt, again, these are the people who, they really don't care. They're insane. They're insane. And they will, without a doubt, they'll shut the whole thing down just because. And you see, they wouldn't even vote on a budget, and McCarthy was like, man, what's wrong with these people? Guess what, Kevin? They're yours.
Yeah, and you see how they even put him in place. I mean, he's in a precarious position to begin with, considering they had so many votes to even let him be the speaker. And I think the reason is, Roland, partially is because they find that there's political capital to that, in terms of being obstructionist. That's why we're continuing to see it. I don't think that's sustainable. I think at some point, even people in their own constituency start to say, you're not getting anything done. But that, I think, goes again to the crisis of representative democracy that we see now. So you got people who are in office running to stay in office and who are not concerned about their constituents and the greater good. But it's because there has not been a political price to pay for their, asinine actions yet.
Michael, this really is one of the funniest clips that I've seen. It was on Fox News Sunday with Shannon Ream. And she thought she was sort of trying to make the point, defending Republicans for getting blamed for government shutdowns. Karl Rove blew that up in her face. Go to my iPad, watch this.
There's another fight that everybody's going to get blamed for, too. Another Hill headline says this: lawmakers prepare for shutdown blame game. Karl, this never seems to go well for anyone, but it does generally seem that Republicans get blamed for these shutdowns.
Well, generally because Republicans are responsible for the shutdown. They seem to eagerly want it. So, yeah, there's a reason why they get blamed. And look, the American people demand that their government try and run itself in an appropriate fashion. And the fact that the biggest financial and business enterprise in the world, the U.S. government, cannot pass a budget in time and then ends up shutting itself down over things that are on the margin. I mean, we're talking about the difference between this and that. And the Republicans are going to be shoot themselves in the foot in the run-up to the 2024 election if they continue to think that shutdowns are a great way to put themselves in front of the American people.
And there you go, right there, Michael. One of their own, like, yeah, we the ones who act stupid.
Absolutely. Karl Rove, I rarely agree with Karl Rove, but this is the time that I agree with him. And this is something I warned people about during the 2020 presidential election and then the 2022, especially the 2022 midterm election, because during the first 2 years of the Trump administration, there were 3 government shutdowns in the first 2 years. And that last one, December 2018 going into January 2019. That one lasted 35 days. That one was devastating, okay? And when you talk about the government shutdown, well, at least going back to the last government shutdown, 2018, 2019, we know about 18% of the federal employees are African American. So you had a lot of federal employees who went without getting paid for that period of time they were shut down. But also you have federal contractors. You have some African American owned businesses that have federal contracts. And if this gets to the point where federal contractors don't get paid, that means their employees don't get paid as well. So we have to understand political self-defense and self-preservation. You cannot let crazy people have control of the government. You can't let them have control of the House, Senate, or the White House. So this is why, 2022, the House flipped to Republicans based upon about 7,000 House votes in a handful of districts. This is why every vote counts. This is why elections have consequences, and we have to be smarter at this.
I always get a kick out of listening to let's say, underage lover Matt Gaetz. Love to see him when he is whining and crowing about Kevin McCarthy. Remember Kevin McCarthy was kissing his butt to get his vote for House Speaker? Ooh, I love how he repays him.
Kevin McCarthy's fault that the government is going to shut down. Yes, and it's Kevin McCarthy's fault that the government is going to shut down because we didn't move individual spending bills. We cannot blame the Democrats for having not done our job to comply with the coalition agreement that we made at the beginning of the year. That is the fault of the Speaker, and I believe that if he does not immediately remediate that, he will likely face a motion to vacate. I'm not for everyone. I get that. But a deal's a deal. And if Kevin McCarthy wasn't willing to honor the deal that he made to assume the speakership, then he should not have agreed to those terms. Inside Washington, D.C., people think they can just lie all the time with impunity and that no one's ever going to call them on their bullshit. But, Kevin broke this deal. And I intend to hold him to that deal or to hold daily votes on a motion to vacate. Yeah, I'm pretty frustrated. And I had so much hope when Speaker McCarthy made this agreement that we could turn this place around during both Republican and Democrat control. But instead, all we've gotten are lies and broken promises and failure and shutdowns. And while that may be Kevin McCarthy's legacy, it will not be mine.
Yes, it will. Because you're a liar, too. Gotta go to the break. We come back. We're going to talk Mississippi, what's happening there when it comes to judicial races. Supreme Court, shocking 8-0 decision. We'll explain next. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. And on the next Get Wealthy, you'll meet Jandy Turner, who took her love of sports, expanded her network, and created a thriving business.
I settled on developing a golf event planning business, which in and of itself has been very viable for me. One of the things that I've learned from producing hundreds, if not thousands, of golf tournaments is that business gets done on the golf course.
All on The Next Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance.
We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Folks, a surprise decision out of Mississippi where the Supreme Court there unanimously agreed that the attempt by Republicans to create 4 unelected special circuit court judges in Hinds County, where Jackson, Mississippi is unconstitutional. The 8 justices sided with the plaintiffs that HB 1020 Section 1 said that Section 1's creation of 4 newly appointed temporary special circuit judges in the 7th Circuit Court District for a specified almost 4-year term violates our Constitution's requirement that circuit judges be elected for a 4-year term. Blake Feldman is the Impact Policy Counsel with the Impact Policy Counsel from the Mississippi Center for Justice. Blake, glad to have you here. So here's the thing that people have to understand what's really going on. We're seeing this in other states as well. Republicans in Mississippi are using the supermajority to impose their will on Jackson, Mississippi. They hate the fact that it's Democrat. They hate the fact that it's 70% black. But what's hilarious is, without Jackson, a broke Mississippi is broker.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been complete, Jackson was targeted in a way that we have not seen yet this past legislative session. This is a big win. The coalition that organized quickly when this bill and others were introduced this session were vindicated yesterday, and this is great, but no one is naive enough to believe that the legislature is done targeting Jackson, that it all of a sudden now will believe that black people should be entrusted with the same rights to vote, the same rights to self-determination. Jackson will continue to be targeted, but it's been really deprived and starved of resources for a few decades now by a majority white legislature and all white statewide elected officials, which is really unfortunate. It cripples the state. It hurts everyone. It hurts white and black Mississippians. But this mentality of black people should not be able to govern themselves in the same way that every other municipality in the state is allowed, in the same way that residents of every other county in the state are allowed. Hinds County and Jackson were treated in a very gross, unfair, and discriminatory way this past session.
And we're not just talking about this bill. There's so many others. These are the same people who literally refused to. I mean, the governor, when he said he was treasurer, he was proud of not funding Jackson, Mississippi. And then they told Chokwe Lumumba, the mayor, okay, you actually think, because he told me the story, he's like, you actually think you're going to go to D.C. and get Biden to give you some money for the water system? Lumumba came here, got $600 million. And then when he got back, they were like, yeah, we're going to run the water system now.
Exactly. We will not give you resources, then we will blame failures on you. If you are able to secure those resources, we cannot trust you to use those correctly, so we will use them even though the state has no track record of doing things correctly. It's a very entrenched and sustained mentality of white supremacy that is just devastating to the people in the community, which is why this bill of lies that the legislature tried to sell this past session with, this is to help the people of Jackson. The people of Jackson want solutions to problems that they're facing, but they do not want the state to dictate to them these non-solutions that were provided with these bills. This won't address anything. All that it does is take a little bit more power from black people and give it to the state and the statewide elected officials who happen to all be white.
And what we're seeing here is that this is nothing new because it's happening in other states. I mean, in Texas, my home state, the Republicans passed a bill that says Secretary of State, if certain things happen, has the power to overturn an election only in Harris County. 254 counties in Texas, but they passed a bill against one county in Texas. And they've been targeting Harris County because it's a blue county. And so this is what Republicans are doing. They're wielding their power, and they are all the so-called local government, no big government, local control. It's amazing they only believe that when they're in power.
Exactly. And I think that another thing that's very important, I'm glad you brought up Texas. Mississippi and Texas share the same Court of Appeals in the federal judiciary system. I think that these state legislatures that are very conservative believe the federal courts aren't going to stop us. The state courts aren't going to stop us. We can do whatever we want. And we're seeing this was a radical piece of legislation, House Bill 1020. Senate Bill 2343, expanding Capitol Police in those ways. These were very radical pieces of legislation. I think that it really speaks to the people of Jackson that organized and said we have to fight this with every arrow that we have in our quiver. One of those arrows is litigation. And the people of Jackson said we're not just going to roll over when we're targeted, especially when fundamental principles of our democracy are attacked. That is a paraphrase of what one of the plaintiffs said in our case, in her case. And people didn't think that we would get a decision like this, that the Mississippi Supreme Court would side with them, that when the Mississippi Constitution says that circuit judges are elected, shall be elected by the people in this state, it means what it says. But that's what they did. In an 8-0 unanimous decision, the Mississippi Supreme Court said, yes, the Constitution means what it says. These 4 appointments that are being forced onto the people of Hinds County, which would deprive them of the right to vote and choose their elected leaders of their courts, is unconstitutional. And it was struck down, and it really speaks to, because we're not done, and the community knows that we're not done. We will use every avenue available, and the people of Jackson will use every avenue available to demand equity and equal treatment from this state legislature.
We appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Matt, I want to go to you first. Look, I keep trying to explain to people, again, to all the people out there who sit on their asses and don't vote, this is what happens when you let people have total control, when you don't exercise your power. There are thousands of black people in Mississippi who are eligible to vote who do not vote.
That's absolutely right. And it's also what happens when you don't hold politicians to account for what they say, even if they act hypocritically. I think you made a really astute point earlier. I mean, they Republicans primarily crow about local government and federalism and all of that stuff. And then you pass a bill where you basically want to divest the people of Jackson of that. That's an indefensible position. And that's something against what you said for all these years. And on top of that, to your point, I mean, not only is it about local control, but when you have 70% of the population is black and you want to create basically a conservatorship where white people get to decide what happens in those black people's lives and they have no meaningful say, I mean, that's abhorrent in 2023. And it's one of those things that only happens after you have seen fomenting of this kind of rhetoric, right? The kind of rhetoric, just like I actually spoke to, that black people can't take care of themselves and that we've got to take care of themselves. And, you know, they don't have the means of intelligently, pursuant to their Mississippi Constitution, electing the people who represent them. So this is why elections matter. And this is why holding politicians to account for what they say matters. Because if you're talking about local government and federalism and all these things, then you cannot pass bills that directly controvert that. And that's precisely what they intended to do here. But I am still concerned, Roland. I didn't hear if they're going to still create the district, how is that district or that circuit actually populated? I know that these judges have to be elected, but are those circuits going to be?
They struck it down but they did approve one of them. So again, it's sort of it's also a weird ruling there. But basically, they got to go back to the drawing board for these 4 circuit judges because they're supposed to be like 3. It was supposed to be 4 terms, and so that's what's up with that one. Michael, I want to go to you on this because this is the thing. Again, we're seeing this in Tennessee. We're seeing it in Texas. In Tennessee, they literally split Nashville into 4 different congressional districts. They try to take away the airport authority from Nashville. Republicans in Georgia have been trying to do the exact same thing. Our people need to understand, again, if we do not vote, what is happening. These Republicans are trying to, we may say, oh, hey, we got Democratic mayor. These Republicans are saying, no, we're going to control your city from the state capitol.
Absolutely, and especially in the former Confederate states like Mississippi is, like Texas is, like Tennessee is. And, your guest mentioned the state constitution of Mississippi. That's the Mississippi State Constitution of 1890. And you don't have to read the whole thing, but if you understand it, they impose poll taxes, literacy tests, but also a felony disenfranchisement law. So that if you committed a felony or certain types of felony, you lost your right to vote for life. And all this was targeting African Americans. The presiding judge over the state convention, his name was Solomon Saladin Calhoun. He said, we came here to exclude the Negro. Okay. And then when we look at Hinds County is 70%, more than 70% African American. So this is a continuation. Okay, this is a continuation of what happened after Reconstruction ends and these voter suppression tactics that they keep playing. This is why we have to understand politics as well as history and vote not just for people who can do things for us, but also vote to stop people who are trying to do things to us. Okay, so this is extremely important.
Kelly.
No, I agree with my panelists here. My main concern with this ruling, even though it was overturned, is that the court still emphasized that there's no constitutional impediment to what they did, meaning that they can do it again, given they have exigent circumstances. And knowing how Mississippi's, they can absolutely more or less force an exigent circumstance upon Jackson, upon this county, to do what they just did. And that's still a problem. Just because it was overturned because of, some type of loophole doesn't mean it can't happen again by another loophole. So we still need to be aware. We still need to be proactive in this. And for Mississippians, vote. Make sure that you're holding your people accountable so that stuff like this doesn't happen again, and that y'all will actually vote judges in who can make sure that jurisprudence like this doesn't apply.
Folks, we come back. We'll be chatting with Georgia United States Senator Raphael Warnock. He is in the House. Lots to talk about. Calls for New Jersey Senator Menendez to resign. President Biden saying he's going to walk the picket line. Republicans can't get their act together in the House. Black people are saying, what have you done for me lately? What was going to happen in the 2024 election? Lots to discuss. Next, right here, a Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, folks, to please, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, all right? Don't be lazy, hit the like button. Also, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible. I keep telling y'all, I'm out here fighting these. Look, I found out today there's one advertiser, they did not want to advertise with us because they did not like a commentary I gave about Texas Governor Greg Abbott. But I see they ads on Fox News. So y'all need to understand how they do black-owned media. And so your support is absolutely critical. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. That comes out to $1 million a year. Folks, that's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. A lot of people say they can't afford that. Totally understand. Had a woman today at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, AOC. She's like, I don't want a picture. I'm making my contribution. I don't know how to use Cash App. So I punched it in for her, and she gave her contribution. I certainly appreciate that. So send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Chapters, Books A Million, Target. Download the audio copy on Audible. We'll be right back. When you talk about blackness,
and what happens in black culture. We're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're going to be talking about common sense. We think that people have it, know how to use it, but it is something that people often have to learn. The truth is, most of us are not born with it, and we need to teach common sense, embrace it, and give it to those who need it most, our kids.
So I always tell teachers to listen out to what conversations the students are having about what they're getting from social media, and then let's get ahead of it and have the appropriate conversations with them.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon. She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons. And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
folks, he was reelected to a full six-year term. Remember, 2020, there was a runoff. It was Raphael Warnock, John Ossoff. Both of them were in highly contested runoff elections in Georgia. You know, we dang near moved to Georgia for those 5 weeks to help them with that. Well, for Senator Ossoff, he had the full six-year term. Senator Warnock, he had to run again in 2022, but now he can go, all right, cool. I'm here for 6 years. After folks turned out in big numbers, he joins us right now. Frat, been waiting for you to get here, to come sit in the chair.
Good to see you, brother.
It ain't like you know, it ain't like it's a hot seat, you know. But sometimes it can get a little hot.
Look,
but,
I won 5 elections in 3 years, but who's counting? Here we are.
Yeah,
good to see you, man.
A whole lot of elections. Absolutely good to see you. A lot going on in D.C. Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, AOC, is going on.
Right.
We'll chat about that in a second. But it's been a crazy news day already. One of your colleagues indicted in New Jersey. Democrats in his state have been calling for him to resign. Your thoughts on this indictment of Robert Menendez, $480,000 in cash found in his home, and literally the feds say DNA of one of the folks involved who was bribing him found on envelopes. When you have a very narrow margin already in the United States Senate.
Well, listen, all of us who are elected to public office, for me, that represents a sacred trust and covenant between the person elected and the people who elected you. We'll see how all of this plays out. This is very fresh, and we'll witness a judicial process at work.
And I saw one story before that he has already given up committee gavel, but some of the Democrats are saying, look, there's no way you can, because it's already been indicted before. It was a hung jury. They're saying, look, the feds, put out literally the cash and the envelopes, things along those lines, on the Department of Justice website. And with already a very tenuous situation, a very small margin, you do not have a lot of room to work with there in the United States Senate with Democrats.
Well, one of the great things about our country, at least we extol, is that no one is above the law, no one is below the law. And I will wait and see how this plays out.
Another issue, President Joe Biden has been going back and forth over this UAW strike. The UAW folks announced that they're going to be expanding their strike across the country. Go to my iPad. President Biden apparently is going to be joining the picket lines for the United Auto Workers. Your thoughts about that?
Well, listen, I'm a big champion of workers. And, I watched my dad. He wasn't a member of a union, but I watched him work hard with his hands. He was a small business owner. I don't think most people mind working hard. They just want to share in the prosperity that they're helping to create for others. And so the strength of collective bargaining is an important tradition in our country. We're seeing it play out. And by the way, I don't buy this political divide you see often between being pro-worker and pro-business. I want to see businesses thrive so that families can thrive. But it's important for workers to have that kind of collective strength so that they can negotiate. And when that's not there, we see this increasing wealth divide, and people are not able to thrive. And so we'll see how this plays out.
One of your colleagues, Senator Tim Scott, made a statement that if people go on strike, they should be fired. President Joe Biden's team did not wait long to turn a lot of these Republican comments into an ad. We'd love to play this, get your thoughts on it. Go to my iPad, Anthony.
When you have a president that's constantly saying, go union, this is what you get. The unions get emboldened, and then they start asking for things.
The first bill he passed had $86 billion for union pensions.
This president clearly does prioritize union jobs, and he's made very clear here that union workers deserve more, that their pay increases have not come close to the success and the money that all of these auto companies have enjoyed.
The thing that's interesting is we're seeing numbers. Union support is at almost an all-time high. The last 6-7 years has been stunning, even to folks in unions, with how the American people have responded, because for the longest it was unions are awful, let's be right to work, and so many folks are now saying, wait a minute, you know what, collective bargaining ain't a bad idea.
Look, Americans across the political spectrum, I think, have witnessed over the last few decades this growing divide between the compensation of the average worker and their CEOs. And these are the issues that are being raised. This is just one example. But, you know, when I hear one of my colleagues talk about who ought to be fired and people doing their job, I'd love to see my colleagues over in the House do their job. I'd love to see Congress do its job and keep the government open. Because certainly that's not helping working families in Georgia. The people I'm talking to are thinking about the high costs of prescription drugs, the costs of health care in general. They are concerned and trying to keep their families safe. We've had more mass shootings this year than we've had days this year. I just did a panel discussion over at the Congressional Black Caucus weekend this week. It featured Quavo, who's undergone his own tragedy in recent months. My colleague, Lucy McBath, who lost her son, transformed her pain into power, got involved in politics. We're witnessing all of this American carnage, and Congress hasn't done nearly enough. And so I'd like to see us, you know, get something done on gun safety, on prescription drugs, on creating jobs and opportunity for average Americans.
And to that point, I mean, we see the energy. We saw the energy in Tennessee when the Republicans booted out two out of three, both African Americans. Gloria Johnson wasn't booted out, and they were responding to the people who were demanding change after there was a shooting at this Christian school. Then the Republicans there then began to literally throw people out who were holding up signs. And so they spent more time attacking the folk who were crying about their children being killed than to deal with the issue of guns.
It's awful. You know, what we witnessed in Tennessee, we've seen time and time again, another tragic flashpoint. And for folks who are trying, you know, this happens so often, I'm not sure people even remember what happened. But a killing at a Christian school involving the youngest of children and others, and you had a movement emerge, people responding to that. And rather than using their power to do something about safety, we saw this anti-democratic effort afoot in the Tennessee legislature. They threw these young legislators out. One of them visited my church in recent months, and I was certainly inspired by their leadership, by their voice. But we are seeing, Roland, this kind of assault, this unabashed, unembarrassed assault on our democracy from people who know that they're losing the argument. They're losing the argument on gun safety. They're losing the argument on reproductive choice. They're losing the argument on a whole range of issues. And so rather than have the people pick their representatives, the representatives are trying to pick their voters or throw out the representatives that the voters have selected. You won't hear me say this much, especially on Roland Martin Unfiltered, but a Fox News poll said that 87% of Americans believe that we ought to have universal background checks. We ought to at least know who's owning the guns, and yet no real discussion, something I was pushing my colleagues on in recent weeks and in recent months. No real conversation about that. As divided as the country is, I don't think the people are as divided as is reflected in the politics. And that's a democracy problem. And the Congressional Black Caucus, whose weekend I chair this year, has always been at the center of that conversation. We've got to do something about all these issues, but I think job one is fighting for the democracy itself. And I do think that Black people, given our history, given our struggle, just to have our humanity acknowledged, to have our voices heard, have always had a special role to play in that. And I'm proud to be a part of a movement that centers racial equity, but is multiracial in its expanse and is focused on giving the people their voice back in their own democracy.
Talked about the CBCF. I moderated a panel today with Congressman Hank Johnson about expanding the courts. And what he argued is that, first of all, we've expanded the courts before. They did not begin at 9. The country has changed. We look at the circuit courts that changed as well. Do you believe there should be an expansion of the Supreme Court when we look at a lot of these critical issues first? And then got to get your thoughts on should there be ethics reform? There's a new story from ProPublica about Clarence Thomas literally participating in Coke Network fundraisers. Republican judges are saying that absolutely crosses the line. A Supreme Court justice should not be attending fundraisers for right-wing conservative groups.
Well, sadly, the Republican leader certainly believes in expanding the courts. He's perhaps the only living senator who's actually done it. But certainly there ought to be ethics and accountability in the courts. I mean, this is a foundation of what it means to live in a democracy. We are watching what's happening in the Supreme Court. Clearly, it seems to me there is not a willingness to hold themselves accountable. And so we've got to do something, I think, at the congressional level to push ethics reform. Whether you are elected to office or you're serving on the court, people have to know. I mean, this is how the democracy works. People have to know that decisions are being made and that it's not one's own self-interest that's guiding those decisions.
Like private plane rides and yacht rides and your wife getting several $100,000 from these conservative groups.
The influence of dark money, I think we are witnessing, whether we're talking about Supreme Court justices who seem to be enjoying themselves in ways that are quite interesting if you talk to the average American, or you're talking about the outsized influence of dark money influencing something like the debate around gun safety. Again, there's movement on this issue in the public.
Right.
And I think what your viewers and others ought to be asking is, if there's movement in the public on this issue, even among Democrats and Republicans, why isn't there movement in the highest levels of our government? And that's because of the outsized impact of dark money in our politics, because of racial and partisan gerrymandering, people who are in districts and the only thing they're worried about is being challenged by somebody more extreme than them. All of these kind of anti-democratic efforts afoot in our democracy are the reason why we've got to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, which I introduced a few months ago. And also later this year, I'll introduce the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
I'm gonna come back to that. You mentioned the CBC a little bit earlier in terms of what their focus is. One of the areas they have really been focused on is on your side of the aisle, and that is they have been challenging Senator Dick Durbin to say, dude, the blue slips. You got federal judges, you got U.S. attorneys and others that are being held up by Republicans. They want him to end that practice. Have you had conversations with him about the blue slip and the concerns of CBC members in the House? Because literally, black folks, bottom line is, he's not chair of the committee unless black folks and others put you in office to secure that majority. And there are black people who are voting in all these other places around the country, and people aren't getting appointed because Republicans are holding them up, now going on 3 years.
Well, this is not a new controversy. We've heard it before. And depending on who's in office and who has the majority, it plays a couple of different ways. And it's something that I'm interested in as a member of the Senate, obviously. I vote to confirm all of these folks if they're brought up for a vote. That blue slip has been used, I just want us to recognize, in a few different ways.
And it's a relic from the Jim Crow era.
Well, there are a host of things that are a relic from that era.
There are people watching, and I deal with this every single day. And you talked earlier about the things that have been accomplished and how the American public is moving. But you have a significant number of African Americans who believe not enough is being done. Folks are talking about potentially sitting the election out, having protest vote, and that could very well impact whether Biden-Harris is reelected. What do you say to those people who are frustrated? George Floyd Justice Act wasn't passed. I've broken down that Senator Tim Scott and Senator Lindsey Graham didn't come through with that. You talked about John Lewis Act and others, that President Biden has not delivered and what he said to African Americans, what would you say to those people who are angry and upset?
Well, first of all, in a very real sense, there is no such thing as sitting out a vote. To not vote is to vote.
But the last four cycles, the black vote has gone down.
That has implications. And look, I wish that this were just another ordinary election, as consequential as that would be. But I think this is an election to save the democracy itself. And we have fights about a whole range of things. Change has been slow and hard in this country. Black folk know that better than anybody. It comes in fits and starts. But the democracy is the framework in which we get to fight. And we are clearly in a fight at a fundamental level between those who believe in democracy and those who don't. That's the choice in this election. And
I would tell the White House they have to make a better argument, because Terrence Whitberry has his data. When he actually tells people go, nothing's been done, they're frustrated. But then when he literally explains, they go, it literally changes the data. So it seems as if those who have actually passed things might want to do a better job explaining what they've done.
That's what a campaign is all about. And I think that story will be told over the next few months. Look, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have been most effective. Here they were elected in the midst of a pandemic, unlike anything we've seen in our lifetimes, with a 50-50 Senate, thanks to what we did in Georgia, gave us the slightest of majorities we could have had. And with that slightest of majorities possible, we were able to pass the American Rescue Plan, which strengthened businesses, which kept our municipal governments flowing and operating, and had a provision, which was one of my favorite. It expanded the child tax credit, which would cut child poverty 40 to 50%. I'd like to see us extend that expanded child tax credit. We passed the first bipartisan.
I want to talk to Senator Joe Manchin about that.
We passed we passed the first bipartisan infrastructure bill. After folks talking about infrastructure week and talking about infrastructure for a generation, we finally got something done on that front. We passed the CHIPS and Science bill. We passed the first, the largest veterans benefits program in a generation. And then we went back and passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which invests in American manufacturing, clean energy, and it contains my bill, which capped the cost of insulin for folks on Medicare to no more than $35 of out-of-pocket costs per month. I'm running into people all over Georgia all the time who say that literally changed their lives. And I'm hopeful that sometime between now and the end of the year, we will move another prescription drug bill through the Congress, which will include my provision, my bill, which would cap the cost of insulin for everybody, people with insurance, people who don't. I can tell you that matters in a state like Georgia, where we have 1 million diabetics. 12% of the adults have diabetes. That this has been an effective administration, and yet there's more work to do.
Last question. I think it's an easy one. So what do you tell those folks who say Biden just too old? He should not run again. He's too old.
Well, listen, that's part of the conversation. But I would say point to look at how effective he's been. Look what he's got done, and look at the alternative. I'm proud to stand alongside this president and this vice president, and I look forward to working with them over the next few years.
All right. Well, Senator, glad to have you. Look forward to having you back again here in the blackest newsroom in the country.
Good to be with you, my alpha brother.
Oh, yeah. You ain't gonna find as much black art in any other news show. Never not at CNN, MSNBC.
It looks great. You all should see what I'm seeing. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right,
thanks
Roland.
a bunch.
Take care, man.
All right, thanks a bunch, folks. Got to go to a break. We'll be back. We'll chat with our panel. More on Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change. Respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful? No, no.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're going to be talking about common sense. We think that people have it, know how to use it, but it is something that people often have to learn. The truth is, most of us are not born with it, and we need to teach common sense, embrace it, and give it to those who need it most, our kids.
So I always tell teachers to listen out to what conversations the students are having about what they're getting from social media, and then let's get ahead of it and have the appropriate conversations with them.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Camera. All right, let's go to our panel. We'll talk about that conversation with Senator Raphael Warnock, Matt Manning. Reverend Warnock, smooth with the answer regarding blue slips in the Supreme Court. Didn't want to really take a stand on that one. The panel discussion we had earlier, what kills me, the number of people who have no concept of American history, because the Supreme Court, it didn't start with 9. It was actually fewer people. And we've actually had more than 9 people as well in the Supreme Court. And it's so interesting how people swear, oh no, you can't change anything. when it's actually changed many times before. And really, I see right now there's a significant problem. Clarence Thomas absolutely is completely corrupt. When you see that ProPublica story where now attending Coke Network fundraisers, his wife getting money essentially under the table, you can't tell me she's not having conversations with him about Supreme Court cases, flying on private jets, yacht rides, things along those lines. How in the hell can anybody trust the Supreme Court that literally is being purchased by billionaire conservatives?
Trust them. And not only can you not trust them, the problem with this is we're talking about the branch of government that has to most be above any appearance of impropriety, right? These are the people who are calling the balls and the strikes, so to speak. So if they're slanted, that puts everything into the context that you can't trust anything. And here's the reality of it. I like Senator Warnock a great deal, but I feel like a lot of the conversation was the same rhetoric we hear. And the reality is a lot of people don't want to be involved in government for two reasons, or rather vote for two reasons. One, we say the United States is a democracy. It's not. It's an oligarchy, right? There's a small number of people who really run things, and the rest of us are left out. And with Congress, they're not passing bills that stop school shootings. It's hard to pay for your bills at the grocery store. The gas pump is expensive. It's hard to get health care and to pay for it. So on the ground, I feel like your average American feels like their concerns are not really being met because all we see is political pageantry. And I say all of that to say the same is the truth with the Supreme Court. Now, if you look at the way our government was founded, the Supreme Court was never intended to be the strongest branch. In fact, one of its first major decisions gave it the power to do what it does now, which is review the constitutionality of the laws. So for them to be very clearly slanted, we obviously need to change something, and we need to do something differently, particularly where that branch has developed the outsized power to decide on the ground what happens to our lives, right? The healthcare decisions we can make, who we can marry, where we can live, all these kinds of things are in their hands. So when you have somebody who is very clearly slanted one way, then you cannot expect that there's ever going to be a fair shot when you come up to argue. And you're not wrong. There's no way that Ginny Thomas is not talking to him about the cases coming before him, as are the people who are sending Alito on these private jets and to these private events into Italy. So, the reality is there's corruption afoot, but it's particularly insidious because that's the branch that is supposed to be most above the fray, and the branch who seems to be most resistant now to putting in ethics to hold itself accountable.
Michael, this is a ProPublica story. Go to my iPad. You see right here, Clarence Thomas secretly participated in Coke Network donor events. And you go into the story, you'll see here, it says on January 25th, 2018, dozens of private jets descended on Palm Springs International Airport. Some of the richest people in the country were arriving for the annual Winter Donor Summit of the Koch network, the political organization founded by libertarian billionaires Charles and David Koch. A long weekend of strategizing, relaxation in the California sun, and high-dollar fundraising lay ahead. Just after 6 p.m., a Gulfstream G200 jet touched down on the tarmac. One of the Koch network's most powerful allies was on board, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. During the summit, the justice went to a private dinner for the network's donors. Thomas has attended Koch donor events at least twice over the years, according to interviews with 3 former network employees and 1 major donor. The justice was brought in to speak, staffers said, in the hopes that such access would encourage donors to continue giving. Michael, there's without a doubt Clarence Thomas should be resigning from the Supreme Court. He is completely compromised.
Absolutely. Yes, he should resign. But also, we have to really connect the dots with this and understand the role that Leonard Leo plays, understand the role that not just the Koch brothers, but when you look at somebody like Mitch McConnell, who blocked 103 federal judge nominations from President Barack Obama after Republicans took back control of the Senate in 2014. And then Mitch McConnell blocked Merrick Garland, who was Obama's Supreme Court nominee in 2016. And, there's talk back and forth about expanding the courts, things like this. But what was really, really important for people to understand is that Donald Trump got 3 Supreme Court justice nominations. confirmed, okay? These are conservatives, and this is one of the reasons why you have so many people sticking with Trump, because he said he would only nominate Supreme Court justices who would overturn Roe versus Wade. He basically got that done. And we have to understand what happens, why voting for president is so important, but also the Senate, because the president nominates federal judges and Supreme Court justices, which right now are lifetime appointments, but the Senate confirms them, okay? So a lot of people don't understand how all these dots are connected, and they keep seeing these negative things taking place. This is not as difficult to remedy as many people think. We got to vote better people in the office and vote more competent people in the office and vote criminals out of office, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican.
Kelly, look, when I asked the senator specifically about obviously expanding the courts, but also what's happening with Senator Dick Durbin, the bottom line is this here. Democrats don't necessarily want to, take fire at their own, but the CBC has been very, very clear about Senator Durbin, saying, man, look, we put you in power. The voters put you in power. How are you letting Republicans still dictate with this old blue slip practice? Democrats are afraid to do anything because, what happens when we're not in the majority and they are? Well, hell, Senator Lindsey Graham did the exact same thing. So this is the thing that drives me crazy when it comes to Democrats. Republicans flex power. They use power. They wield power. Democrats, I don't know if we want to really do that because, what might happen if we don't have the power? You deal with that when you don't have it.
Facts. Right? My issue with this is the fact, like you said, when Republicans have power, they wield it. The irony is, if Democrats wielded their power, they would be 10 times more powerful than Republicans have ever been. We always tout the mantra that Democrats are the big tent party. Well, how about we actually leverage the fact that we're the big tent party, and if people don't want to be part of the big tent, risk it. We're still going to be a big tent, and we're still going to have 10 times more power than the Republican Party because we are so diverse, because we have this marketplace of ideas within the party that we can leverage to get even more of what we need across the board. But because we are so scared of looking like Republicans, which frankly at this juncture is impossible unless you want to be racist and monolithic too, just leverage it. And what I liked about being in CBC, ALC this week is seeing all of these congressmen, all of these powers that be in rooms with solutions. We actually got to see what the big tent looks like and what the ideas are in this big tent. And all we need to do is leverage it well enough for it to actually be realized.
All right, hold on a second, folks. We come back. What the hell is going on in Memphis? First, the cops who killed Tyre Nichols. Now we got these folks in the jail who are awful there as well. My God, Memphis, really? We'll discuss that when we come back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. YouTube folks, hit that like button. I see y'all commenting. Hit the like button. Also, your donations are critically important to our survival. It's important for you to support us in what we do. I purposely am not charging people to be subscribers because we want our information to be available. I can't tell y'all how many people have been stopping me at Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, ALC, saying they watch this show, they appreciate this show. Young people, older people. I've had college students. And so don't think for a second that we're not having an impact. In fact, I got a post from a woman in Henderson, North Carolina. She hit me on Instagram. And she said to me that she is running for city council in Henderson, North Carolina because of what she learned watching this show. She said, please keep teaching young folks like me. Folks, though that is a reality of what's going on. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal are Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. And, of course, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. We'll be right back.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. And on the next Get Wealthy, you'll meet Jandy Turner, who took her love of sports, expanded her network, and created a thriving business.
I settled on developing a golf event planning business, which in and of itself has been very viable for me. One of the things that I've learned from producing hundreds, if not thousands, of golf tournaments is that business gets done on the golf course.
All on The Next Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
This is Essence Atkins.
It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Nine Memphis jail deputies are with the, have been charged. First of all, they're in jail with the death of a black man who died in custody nearly a year ago. 33-year-old Gershon Freeman died inside the Shelby County Jail after an encounter with jailers on October 5th, 2022. According to an autopsy, Freeman suffered cardiac arrest while he was restrained. His manner of death has been classified as a homicide. Stevan Jones and Courtney Parham are charged with second-degree murder and aggravated assault in concert, resulting in death. Second-degree murder and aggravated assault in concert, resulting in death. Damian Cooper, Ebony Davis, Larico Elliott, Anthony Howell, Chelsea Duckett, and Jeffrey Gibson are facing one charge of aggravated assault in concert, resulting in death. The ninth jailer has not been identified. A May 2024 federal trial date has been set for the 5 former Memphis cops accused of the fatal beating of Tyre Nichols. Attorneys for Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin, Desmond Mills, and Justin Smith agreed on the May 6 trial date. The trial is expected to take 8 or 9 days for all 5 officers. The former MPD officers were indicted by a federal grand jury last week, charging them with depriving Tyre Nichols of his rights following a traffic stop that led to his death. Nichols died 3 days after being punched, kicked, and hit with a baton by the officers during a traffic stop. These officers face state charges, including second-degree murder as well. They pleaded not guilty. Matt, this is, I mean, this is absolutely crazy. And I've said repeatedly how the Department of Justice has been very aggressive in going after wardens and jailers and the kind of stuff with these correction officers. And, you know, people act as if, man, this is no big deal. These are just folks who are in jail. No, this is serious. This is major. And there should be a massive crackdown on these thug jailers.
Yeah, you know, this is particularly timely today because today I had a conversation with an expert that I hired in an excessive force case, a former chief of police. And he told me, you know, the reason this stuff happens is because these people never get punished. And the people on the department recognize they're not going to get punished. And they recognize there is no real price to pay for doing this. This kind of thing happens all the time. This is probably 40% of my practice, Roland, is filing lawsuits like this. And just like your prior guest talked about with the Fifth Circuit. Every time I file one, no matter how bad it is, I have to bake into my strategy the reality that the Fifth Circuit is likely going to rule against my client no matter how bad what happened to him or her was. I tell you
that's because the Fifth Circuit is an absolutely hardcore right-wing MAGA court.
It's incredibly conservative. And that's why on this show, every week I'm on, I mention the gulf between what we talk about with the Constitution and the reality of vindicating your constitutional rights if something like this happens. So I said that to say the reason we really need the Department of Justice is because when they prosecute these offenses, they prosecute them from a criminal standpoint, right? Which gives them a different latitude than I have with a civil case, because the civil law does not give me the same latitude, essentially. And it's not as easy to prove the cases, because when you have the power of a grand jury subpoena and law enforcement and other things, it has a different gravitas. So I say all of that to say, you should be shocked by this. This is abhorrent. Anybody with eyes can see that. But what we should also be shocked by is how difficult it is for the families in these circumstances to actually hold somebody accountable. And I'm hoping that the Department of Justice continues to do the good work it's done, because every time they get involved and they prosecute somebody, that family has a true assurance that something's actually going to happen. Whereas every time I file a lawsuit, no matter how crafty I am with how I bring it, I have to tell my clients this is going to be an uphill battle. And that's because it is so hard to hold people accountable in these circumstances.
It is mind-numbing, Michael, when we look at these cases, and you look at Fulton County Jail, the number of people who died there. Remember when that nut case in Milwaukee was the sheriff, and how many people had died there, died in those jails as well? And again, these are still human beings. These are human beings who are dying in jail, viciously beaten. Then you look at the conditions. A lot of these places, no AC, no air conditioning, so they're freezing. No heat. They're freezing to death, or they're profusely sweating. I mean, sewage and flooding, and we've covered this, just Mississippi and Alabama, all over. But this is an epidemic in this country.
Yeah, it really is, Roland. And when you deal with county jails, you'll have people who may be serving less than a year, they may be serving a sentence, but then you may also have people who are awaiting trial as well. So they haven't been found guilty yet. But regardless of whether they've been found guilty or haven't had a trial, that jail is still responsible for their well-being, okay? And this deals with just a basic humanity issue, respecting people's humanity. And a lot of these conditions are unlivable. And if it was a situation where we were awaiting trial, or even if we were convicted of something, we wouldn't want to live in those conditions, and we would not want one of our loved ones to live in those conditions either. So, this has to change. This deals with who you have in political offices, deals with legislation also. But yeah, this is totally unacceptable.
Kelly.
Every time I hear one of these stories, it breaks my heart, because like the panel has already said, they're human beings. And the point of any type of prison or jail system is supposedly supposed to be about it being rehabilitative. How do you rehab someone in a condition like that? You don't. Animals are treated better than some of these prisoners. I remember the story of, I can't remember which jurisdiction it was, but the young man who I think it was Atlanta, died with bed bugs, the bed bug infestation.
That's Fulton County Jail.
Yeah, that was just absolutely disgusting to me. I mean, I can't think of even terrorists who have conditions like that for prisoners of war. And we're talking about American citizens in America who are supposedly supposed to be being rehabbed to get back into society. How do you do that when you have conditions like this? So absolutely something needs to change. Something needs to give. because this is absolutely an injustice system with things the way they are as it stands.
Oh, that's exactly what it is. All right, folks, we appreciate it. Kelly, thanks a bunch. Michael, thanks a bunch. Matt, thanks a bunch. Folks, when we come back, just a little some of the fun we had with Procter & Gamble at the Cincinnati Music Festival. We'll have that for you next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
Sherry Shepard with Sammy Roman.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, when we were in Cincinnati for the music festival, we went to several of the P&G activations, had a lot of fun at one of the activations where they were focused on kings and queens. Check it out. All right, folks, Roland Martin here. So all around Paycor Stadium, P&G, they've got numerous activations. And so this is their kings and queens activation. So let's go in and check it out, see what they got over here. All right, so here we go. All right, y'all, so we gonna skip the line. Come on, let's go over here. So, all right. Hey, y'all, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening, y'all good? All right, so you see they got the red carpet out here, y'all. And so we go, okay, what what happened to all the shirts?
I'm sorry, we'll have more tomorrow.
Seriously, we only been here about 30 minutes.
However, you can win a year's worth of P&G products. You can enter by clicking this QR code.
All right, y'all, so let's go on over here. All right, so let's see what we got over here. Okay, what you doing? What you doing?
So this is Olay. We have two different hydrating moisturizers here. This is a vitamin C with peptide. We don't have any parabens, any synthetic dyes. It won't leave any sticky residues. It won't.
But I see these orange peels. Okay, is this edible?
No. You'll just use it for your face, things like your neck.
I mean, I see orange peels. I thought you can eat it.
So the oranges is because it has a citrus fragrance.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Yep.
Let's make sure you know that.
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right, what you got over here?
And the retinol is good for rejuvenating your skin. If you feel like you might be aging a little bit, we got you covered. So it is fragrance free, it's really good for sensitive skins.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to try some?
So, what it do?
It rejuvenate the skin. So we feel like
let's see if you can rejuvenate. First of all, I got good DNA.
You do. I see you. I'm just saying for your friends that may not. I don't know.
I got good DNA.
That's good to know.
I'm fully rejuvenated. Okay, come on. What you gonna do?
So go ahead and get you a tester. We're gonna put it on the back of your hand. And you tell me what you think.
I thought it was for the face.
You can, but right now just try it on your hand just to test it out. Well, this smells great. Woo.
Ooh, I feel rejuvenated.
I know.
She ain't got no sense. So, whole point is here, you sit in the chair, you got, of course, a hashtag of feels like CMF. Then you got, of course, the concert in the background here. And so you see the folks over there, you see they taking photos over there. And you see what the whole look is like. Remember, you used to go to the club and they had the wicker chair? That's what this feels like. So I might need one of these for the house, but we got a big problem. First of all, this chair is purple and gold. I am an alpha, black and old gold. These are mega colors. So I'm gonna have to talk to the P&G people. Next year, we gotta have black and gold chairs. We can't have this purple and gold. That ain't gonna happen, okay? I just wanna let y'all know. All right, y'all, so here's the deal. I'm about to get up, about to go over here to the Old Spice booth. So let's see what they got over here. All right, what y'all got? What y'all doing over here?
Oh, man, we got the
Say what?
We got Old Spice, got you smelling real nice, man. I'm Donnie here at the Old Spice stand. What's going on? Who am I talking to right now?
Really?
Nah, I'm just playing with you.
You about to get cut.
Nah, I'm just messing. But yeah, we done at the music festival, man. My name's Donnie. We got Old Spice. We're giving them away right here. It's a king booth. So all beautiful kings and queens, no matter your skin color, you're still a king, you're still a queen. Come down and show some love and have fun and be safe.
All right, so look, they gave me this bag. I ain't got nothing in it. What's up?
Let me hook you up, man. Look, this is the first time.
All right, come on.
Bam. Look.
That's it?
Make sure you start over
That's
here.
it?
Yeah, that's it right here. I would say we can't get you.
What's the rest? What you got over here? Y'all got more exfoliate. Is that the Dion Cole special?
Yeah.
So what is that?
This is the new gentleman's blend that you can find inside of Kroger's.
Old Spice Gentleman's Blend.
Yes, sir. If you could smell this through the microphone, he'll tell you right now how it smells.
All right.
Smell pretty good, right? Then we got the 2-in-1. We got the face wash, and then we also got the body wash as well. This got the little bit of oatmeal smell in it. Go ahead and take a whiff of that. Let them know how it smells.
I want the cream of wheat.
I heard that. But yeah, that's all we got right here so far.
Cool. All right, Donnie.
All right, take care.
Holla. All right, what y'all got?
Hey, first and foremost, 06 to the good bros.
All right, what's happening?
So it's King C. Gillette. So we have some beard balm. Gonna keep the beard nice and soft for you. So you need this to grow the beard out. This is gonna be the beard thickness.
No, I ain't.
14 days.
First of all, this right here is, see, what I got right now is too thin for me. Was too thin for me. So yeah, I got to keep it down.
Still use some of this though. Keep it soft.
Oh really?
Good, absolutely.
All right, so let's see. So how much supposed to like a dab?
About a nickel size. A little bit more than that. There you go. Rub it together. Get it smooth in there. Yeah, there you go. This one smells good too. Charlotte! There you go, man. Listen, it's gonna be dangerous for you out here with that on. It's gonna be dangerous for you out here with that.
Charlotte's supposed to be snapping. I don't know what she's doing over there. Snap, Charlotte! All right, now what's that?
That's a beard comb. See, you ain't.
Yeah, see, I can't have it fit.
Nah, but don't worry, I got you.
I can't do that, James Hart.
I got you though. I got one right here. It's a nice little product. Keep it smooth. Keep it smooth.
Look, I shave mine every 2 days. I'm not. No, that ain't happening.
It ain't for everybody.
No,
it ain't for everybody.
Everybody can't look like this.
I ain't mad at you.
Everybody can't look like this.
I ain't mad at you. No doubt.
All right, so we got that. We got the cream. Now, what is this? What does this do?
So that's for the people that got a couple patches here and there. They need to grow it out some.
No patches.
You got the beard thickener. Use it about 14 days. You're gonna start seeing some results. Rub it in. Get it nice and smooth. Use your beard comb. You in good shape.
Look, all I'm saying is, all y'all brothers, if y'all gonna have beards, y'all got to trim y'all beards, okay?
Yeah.
This unruly look,
Treat it or trim it.
I can't deal with that.
Treat it or trim it. One of the two.
And here's the other thing for me, I shave your neck. I cannot deal, I can't handle hair on the neck.
Oh, man.
No, I can't.
Dang, man. Come on.
Literally, every other day, boom, it got to go.
Hey, there you go. It works for you. It works for you.
That's right. I can't do it. Because I know I already look good, so, I'm just saying. All right, bro. All right. All right, 06. Y'all know how we do it. That's how we do it. All right, folks, that is it for us. Yo, Instagram, I'm sorry, YouTube, really? How we got 901 likes? All right, man, y'all got 120 seconds to add 99 likes. We can hit 1,000. This don't make no sense. I got to be asking y'all to hit the doggone button so we can get the likes, okay? So hit the dadgum button. Now, support us in what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Okay, graphic, y'all. Wrong, no, don't be playing that. Don't be playing that. Thank you, come on. There you go, right one. Let's get it together. Send your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Then download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also, of course, be sure to get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Don't forget, you can also watch our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel on Amazon News. Go to Amazon Fire, go to Amazon News, and you can check it out. Or tell Alexa, play news from the Black Star Network, and the audio will play. You can also watch our 24-hour streaming channel on Plex TV. That's right. Go to Black Star Network, search for that, or go to Live TV, News and Opinion. All right, folks, that is it. I'll see you guys on Monday on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Black Star Network. Holla! Peace.